Imagine New York City in the 1920s. Trolley cars moved through busy streets, factories filled with workers, and immigrant neighborhoods were packed with people building new lives. Among them were Caribbean immigrants from Puerto Rico, Cuba, Jamaica, the Bahamas, and other islands. They brought something precious with them: their food traditions. But cooking Caribbean food in 1920s New York was not always easy. Familiar tropical ingredients could be difficult to find, kitchens were often tiny, and many working-class families had limited money. So Caribbean cooks became experts at adapting. They used affordable ingredients, stretched small portions, and transformed simple foods into meals full of flavor. One of the most important foods was salt cod. Dried and salted fish could be stored for long periods and was practical for families without modern refrigeration. After soaking it to remove excess salt, cooks could fry it with onions and peppers or serve it alongside vegetables and starches. It was inexpensive, filling, and strongly connected to Caribbean food traditions. Another staple was rice and peas. Rice was one of the most useful foods a family could buy, because a relatively small amount could feed several people. Beans or peas added substance and flavor, depending on the family's background and what was available. Different legumes and seasonings could be used. Then came fried plantains. Plantains were deeply familiar to Caribbean immigrants, but obtaining them in New York could sometimes be challenging. When available, green plantains could be fried until crisp, while ripe plantains became soft, sweet, and caramelized. They could accompany almost anything. Cornmeal porridge was another economical favorite. A warm bowl of porridge could provide energy before a long working day. It could be sweetened with sugar and spices, or prepared in a more savory style depending on family tradition. Caribbean cooks also prepared stewed greens. Leafy vegetables could be combined with onions, peppers, herbs, and small amounts of meat or salted ingredients. The exact greens depended on what could be purchased locally, but the cooking philosophy remained the same. Take inexpensive vegetables and turn them into something flavorful. Pea soup was equally practical. Beans and peas were affordable sources of substance, and a large pot could feed an entire household. A little meat, onion, pepper, or seasoning could give the soup a rich taste without requiring expensive ingredients. Another favorite was stewed chicken. Instead of simply frying or roasting chicken, Caribbean cooks often built layers of flavor through seasoning and slow cooking. Onions, peppers, herbs, and other ingredients helped create a rich sauce that could be spooned over rice. Fried fish was also common. Fish could be seasoned, coated, and fried, then served with rice, plantains, dumplings, or vegetables. The method allowed cooks to turn an affordable market purchase into a satisfying family dinner. Then there were Caribbean dumplings, made from simple ingredients such as flour, water, and salt. Dumplings were inexpensive and filling. They could be boiled or fried and served alongside fish, soup, peas, or stewed meat. Finally, sweet potatoes offered another affordable source of food. They could be boiled, roasted, fried, or incorporated into desserts. For Caribbean families living in New York, locally available sweet potatoes could sometimes replace familiar island starches when the original ingredients were unavailable. These foods reveal an important part of Caribbean immigrant history. The cooks preparing them were not simply following recipes. They were solving problems. They had to feed families, manage limited budgets, work with unfamiliar markets, and still preserve the flavors they remembered from home. That is what made Caribbean cooking in 1920s New York so remarkable. It was traditional, but also inventive. It was economical, but never necessarily bland, and every meal carried a piece of the Caribbean into the heart of New York City. As Caribbean communities grew in 1920s New York, food became one of the strongest ways immigrants stayed connected to home. Families might be living in crowded apartments, working long hours, and shopping in unfamiliar markets, but the kitchen remained a place where Caribbean traditions could survive. One important food was brown stew fish. Fish was seasoned, browned, and then cooked with onions, peppers, tomatoes, and other available ingredients. The resulting sauce could be spooned over rice, creating a meal that was flavorful without requiring a huge amount of fish. Another practical favorite was salted meat with vegetables. Preserved meat could add powerful flavor to an entire pot of vegetables. Instead of using large quantities of meat, cooks could use a smaller piece to season beans, greens, cabbage, or root vegetables. This was economical cooking at its best. Sweet potatoes with salted fish created another combination of inexpensive ingredients. The natural sweetness of the potato balanced the salty fish, while the two foods provided a filling meal. Caribbean cooks understood how to combine contrasting flavors long before modern food trends celebrated sweet and salty combinations. Then there were fried dumplings with fish. Flour-based dumplings were cheap to prepare and could make a relatively small portion of fish feel like a complete meal. For working families, that mattered. Food had to stretch far enough to feed everyone. Rice and peas with stewed meat was another powerful combination. Rice and legumes provided the foundation, while a small amount of meat gave the dish richness. The meat did not have to dominate the plate. Its flavor could spread throughout the entire pot. Pumpkin soup also offered warmth and comfort. Pumpkin or squash could be combined with onions, potatoes, herbs, beans, or small pieces of meat. In colder New York weather, a steaming bowl of soup could provide both nourishment and a reminder of familiar Caribbean cooking. Another food was plantains with eggs. Eggs were practical and relatively easy to prepare, while plantains added sweetness and energy. The combination could work for breakfast or as a quick meal later in the day. Cornmeal dumplings were another inexpensive staple. A few basic ingredients could produce a surprisingly satisfying food. Dumplings could accompany soups, fish, beans, and stews, helping families turn a modest amount of food into a complete meal. Then came coconut rice. Coconut could transform ordinary rice with richness and aroma. Fresh coconut was not always easy to obtain in New York, but when Caribbean cooks could find it, they knew exactly how to use it. The dish brought a distinctly tropical flavor into an urban American kitchen. Pepper pot-style stew represented another important tradition. Different Caribbean islands had different versions of pepper pot, but the general idea involved slowly cooking ingredients together until their flavors became deep and concentrated. Such dishes were ideal for families because one large pot could feed many people. Baked sweet potatoes were another useful food. They were inexpensive, filling, and naturally flavorful. They could be served as a side dish or become part of a larger meal. Beans cooked with salted pork showed how Caribbean cooks could turn humble ingredients into something memorable. Beans were affordable and could feed several people, while a small amount of salted pork provided a powerful savory taste. Yuca, or cassava, was another important connection to Caribbean cooking. When available, it could be boiled or fried and served alongside meat or fish. Because it was dense and filling, it worked well as a replacement for other starches. Caribbean cooks also prepared spiced rice with vegetables. Rice could absorb the flavors of onions, peppers, herbs, and vegetables, making it easy to adapt according to what was affordable at the market that week. For dessert, families could prepare coconut puddings and sweets using ingredients such as coconut, flour, cornmeal, sugar, and spices. These desserts were especially valuable during celebrations because they could make an ordinary family meal feel festive. What makes these foods so fascinating is that they were shaped by both culture and circumstance. A Caribbean immigrant in New York did not always have access to the exact ingredients available on the islands. Instead, cooks learned to substitute. If one vegetable was unavailable, another could be used. If meat was expensive, beans could provide substance. If a tropical ingredient could not be found, a local ingredient might take its place. This process created a new kind of Caribbean cooking. It was still connected to the islands, but it was also becoming part of New York. Food markets, family gatherings, boarding houses, restaurants, churches, and neighborhood events helped these dishes move beyond individual kitchens. Recipes were shared between families, adapted by different communities, and passed from parents to children. And that is the real story behind these forgotten foods. They were not simply cheap meals. They were evidence of creativity, survival, and cultural identity. By the 1920s, Caribbean food in New York was becoming part of a larger immigrant story. Families from different islands were bringing their own recipes, ingredients, and cooking traditions into neighborhoods filled with people from around the world. Their kitchens became places where old traditions met new circumstances. One of the most important foods remained rice and beans. It was affordable, filling, and adaptable. A family could prepare a large pot and serve it with fish, chicken, vegetables, or whatever else was available. For working-class households, this flexibility was extremely valuable. Stewed peas were another practical meal. Beans or peas could simmer with onions, peppers, herbs, and small pieces of meat. The result was a rich dish that could stretch across several servings. The longer it cooked, the more flavorful it became. Then there was fried fish with onions and peppers. Caribbean cooks understood how seasoning could transform inexpensive fish. After frying, the fish could be topped with cooked onions and peppers, creating a simple but powerful combination. Fried plantains also remained a favorite. Ripe plantains became sweet and caramelized when fried, while green plantains could be cooked into a crispier, more savory side. One ingredient could therefore produce completely different flavors depending on its stage of ripeness. Boiled yuca with seasoned sauces offered another connection to the islands. Yuca was dense, filling, and versatile. Once boiled until tender, it could be served with garlic, onions, herbs, or sauces. Alongside fish and meat, families also prepared sweet potato pudding. Sweet potatoes could be transformed into a dessert with sugar and spices. Such dishes were especially meaningful during celebrations because they allowed families to create something special from inexpensive ingredients. Cornmeal porridge remained an important breakfast food. It was warm, filling, and relatively cheap. A bowl could provide energy before a long day of work, while spices or sweeteners gave it a comforting flavor. Another important tradition was making meals from leftovers. Yesterday's meat could be added to rice. Extra vegetables could go into soup. Small pieces of meat could season beans. Nothing useful was thrown away if it could become part of another meal. This was more than thriftiness. For many working families, it was necessary. A household budget had to cover rent, clothing, transportation, and other expenses. Food was one area where careful cooking could make limited money stretch further. Caribbean cooks developed an impressive ability to turn modest ingredients into generous meals. Families also prepared homemade fruit and spice drinks when ingredients were available. These beverages could appear at family gatherings and celebrations, giving people a taste of familiar Caribbean flavors. Ginger drinks were especially memorable. Ginger provided a strong, warming flavor and could turn a simple homemade beverage into something distinctive. These drinks also reflected the importance of spices in Caribbean culinary traditions. Coconut sweets provided another taste of home. Coconut could be used in puddings, cakes, rice dishes, and other desserts. When fresh coconut was difficult to find, cooks had to improvise, but the desire to preserve familiar flavors remained. Food became even more important during community events, weddings, birthdays, church gatherings, holidays, and neighborhood celebrations. Caribbean families could prepare several dishes at once. Different island traditions sometimes appeared side by side. A Puerto Rican family might bring one kind of rice dish. A Jamaican family might prepare peas and dumplings. A Cuban household could contribute its own beans or meat dishes. Other Caribbean immigrants added their own specialties. There was no single Caribbean cuisine. There were many, and New York gave these traditions a place to meet. This created something remarkable. Caribbean cooks were preserving old recipes while simultaneously developing new ones. American ingredients could enter traditional dishes. Local markets could influence recipes. New York's colder climate could change what vegetables were used. The food was evolving, but evolution did not mean losing identity. Instead, food became one of the strongest ways immigrants maintained a connection with their homeland. A smell from a cooking pot could remind someone of childhood. A familiar spice could bring back memories of parents and grandparents. A traditional dish could make a crowded New York apartment feel like home. That is why the story of Caribbean food in 1920s New York is about much more than recipes. It is about migration. It is about workers building lives in a new city. It is about mothers, fathers, grandparents, and children preserving traditions. It is about making limited ingredients stretch, and most importantly, it is about resilience. These cooks did not always have access to the ingredients they wanted. They did not always have large kitchens or expensive equipment. Yet they continued cooking. They substituted. They adapted. They experimented. And they passed the results to the next generation. The foods Caribbean people prepared in 1920s New York, therefore became part of a much larger American food story. Their influence helped create communities where Caribbean flavors could survive, develop, and eventually reach people far beyond the original immigrant neighborhoods. The most shocking part is that many of these meals began with ordinary ingredients: rice, beans, fish, plantains, cornmeal, sweet potatoes, yuca, vegetables, small amounts of meat. But Caribbean cooks knew how to transform ordinary ingredients into food filled with memory and meaning. Every plate represented a little piece of home. Every recipe carried a story, and every family meal helped keep a culture alive. So the next time you see Caribbean food on a New York menu, remember that its history did not begin in modern restaurants. Long before today's food scene, Caribbean immigrants were cooking these flavors in modest kitchens, neighborhood gatherings, and community spaces throughout New York. They were not simply feeding their families, they were preserving their identity. And that may be the most powerful ingredient of all. If you enjoyed this journey through forgotten Caribbean food history, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below which historic food surprised you the most. There are many more forgotten recipes and immigrant food stories waiting to be uncovered.